Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the third episode of Listen to Your Heart. The Bachelor presents Listen to Your Heart. So this episode is exciting because it's the episode where we first start seeing the performances. Woo! So without further ado, let's get into this episode. Okay, so we start off this episode with Brandon pulling Julia aside. Now, last episode, Brandon gave his rose to Savannah and Julia accepted a rose from Sheridan. Because Brandon knew that Sheridan would give his rose to Julia, Brandon wanted to make sure that both Savannah and Julia were there so that he could still figure out his emotions. And he told Julia, "Hey, we can still figure this out now." And I was like, if you care about her that much that you want to continue to explore things, why didn't you give her your rose? And also, Julia, as I mentioned last episode, why would you accept a rose from Sheridan? This makes no sense to me. Absolutely no sense to me. It seems like Brandon and Julia are supposed to be together, and I don't understand why they're bringing Savannah and Sheridan through this unnecessary turmoil. So now, Chris Harrison shows up and he says, "Everything is about to change. I need you to take the rest of today to decide who do you want to pursue this competition with. If you don't see yourself in a serious relationship, you need to pack your bags and leave." Whoa, bruh. It's episode 3, and he said if you're not in a serious relationship, you need to leave. So obviously, conversations need to be had, okay? Conversations have to commence. Okay, so obviously we're not worried about Bree and Chris. Bree and Chris are solid. Jamie and Trevor, even though they're still solid. But my only thing is Jamie's like, "Oh, I'm worried about this and that relationship." I was like, why are you worried about other relationships? You should be worried about yourself, Jamie, okay? That's another thing. In this episode, we see a lot of people being worried about other relationships. And usually when you see that, it means that they're not secure in their own relationship. Another relationship that is solid is Rudy and Matt. So cut to all of the girls are talking and Julia's talking about how she still needs to figure things out between Sheridan and Brandon. And when she says Brandon, she actually points at Savannah. And I'm like, bold. And then Julia tells Savannah, "Just to let you know, this is what Brandon said at the beginning." And she tells Savannah what Brandon said. And Savannah's like blindsided, because Brandon didn't tell her any of this information beforehand. So she's like, "What are you talking about? I don't recall any of this." So that drama has already started. Natasha and Ryan seem solid, and I'm like, yes, they're so cute together. Ah! Next, we get to Gabe, and Gabe says that he really only sees himself staying if he's with Savannah. And at this point, I'm like, wait a minute. I am not even seeing you with Savannah for these past couple of episodes. What are you talking about, dude? But anywho, he talks to Savannah. He's like, "I'm not interested in staying if it's not with you." And Savannah says, "Look, bruh, you're bruh. You're not like someone I want to pursue a future with." So unfortunately, Gabe has to leave. Although I do respect how Gabe was like, "I just need your honesty. Thank you so much for giving your honesty to me." I was like, wow, Gabe, that's so sweet. And in my head, I was like, why didn't Gabe and Cheyenne get together, bruh? They seem like both sweet people. What didn't click? Going back to the producers, I was mad because if Gabe had had a date card or if Cheyenne had a date card, maybe they would have had more time to develop a good relationship with somebody. But no, they're going with the abyss. Because Gabe is going home because he's not with Savannah, Ruby is going home because Ruby was there with Gabe. She's like, "I didn't have time to build a relationship." And I was like, you know what, Ruby? You are right. The only new people that were introduced were Natasha, Ruby, and Mariana. Mariana and Ruby came after Natasha did. So Natasha had more time to develop a relationship. Ruby did not have sufficient time to develop a relationship, and she didn't have a day card. So how can you expect her to develop these relationships when she has no time and she's being thrust into a situation where everyone's already met each other? It's not fair to her, bruh. Producers, what are you doing? But I'm just really happy that Gabe was honest with Ruby about his intentions and why he couldn't stay. You could say he was honest, Gabe. Okay, so now all of a sudden, Brandon is talking to Savannah after Gabe goes home, and all of a sudden, Brandon is like, I want you, Savannah. I want to pursue this with you. And I'm like, literally, earlier you were saying you wanted to figure things out with Julia. So what's changed? What has changed, bruh? What has changed? That makes no sense to me. So at this point, when Julia sees that, she's like, well, I guess it's me and Sheridan now. And I'm just tired, bruh. I don't want Sheridan to be a second choice. He's more than that. He deserves more than that. Okay, so now that the couples are official, Chris Harrison comes back and he tells us how the rest of this show is gonna work. Basically, each pair is going to be given a song that they are going to perform in front of bachelor couples as well as prominent music artists. And the judges are going to decide who stays and who goes. And we finally figure out what the prize is. And the prize is that the duo will become recording artists together and they'll record their own songs and then do a tour. I have no idea how this changes because of Corona, but okay. So obviously everyone's very excited about this. They want to give it their all. Okay, they want to win, but also the main goal, as Chris Harrison says, is love first and then music. So while everyone is rehearsing, everyone seems to be rehearsing really well, really into it, except for Julia. Sheridan is singing a song and Julia's just like you can tell, bruh, that she's just not into it. And I was like, Julia, you need to be present in the moment. If you've decided to be with Sheridan, even the last episode you said you only wanted Brandon, but if you decide that you're going to stay with Sheridan, you need to give it your all and commit, because Sheridan does not deserve this lack of effort. So to me, all of them need to go home. Okay, Sheridan needs to go home because he's been caught in the crossfire. Brandon needs to go home. Julia needs to go home. And Savannah needs to go home also because she has been caught in the crossfire. But what I really don't like is how bitter Julie is, right? Like, Julie is always looking at, this could also just be editing. So, this could just be editing. But it seems like Julia is always looking at Brandon and Savannah and is just bitter. Like, you can feel her emotions festering because Brandon didn't pick her. And I know. And notice how, like, the person she talks to is Jamie. And you already know how I feel about Jamie. Like, those two, they just have this bad sense of energy that they're just exchanging between each other. And no. So now, because Julia just told Jamie that she thinks Savannah and Brandon are fake because literally they were not touching and now they're a couple and they're showing so much PDA, she decides to pull aside Savannah. And so Julia is talking to Savannah and saying how she thinks Savannah's relationship with Brandon is fake and a bunch of other things. And then Savannah's like, why is my relationship affecting you so? That's what I was thinking. Why is her relationship affecting you so? And then another thing that just kept getting to me, just kept irking me, is when she kept calling Savannah disingenuous. I was like, you're the one who won't stop staring at Brandon and Savannah, but then keeps telling Sheridan that you're interested in him, when literally last episode you said you only wanted Brandon. Who's disingenuous? Who? And then, okay, here's my thing. So she's talking to Savannah and whatever. Still during this discussion, she's like, and I just want to let you know this is not because I had feelings for Brandon. And I was like, but literally just a couple minutes ago, the producers showed that you said you just can't turn your feelings off instantly. So who's lying? Who's contradicting themselves? Who? And then Savannah's just like, well, at the end of the day, she's just bitter because he picked me. And I was like, exactly, Savannah. Carry on about your day. Don't change for her. Just be you with your boo, even though I don't really like your boo. But just do you, sweetie. Period. Okay, so we actually still have dates during this, which I thought was amazing. And we have 2 dates. The first date is Danny and Becca. And I think this was important because, as I mentioned, we never really saw them together except at the rose ceremony. And so on this date, they both get some new wardrobe and they're getting all dressed up. But then they get to the pool and they're talking, and it seems like Danny is there, like his emotions are there, but Becca's not there yet. And I was like, when you're going into a situation like this, where you're about to sing for a song, you already have that disconnect, that may not work out well for you. And I turned out to be right in the end. And the second date, Natasha and Ryan. So they go to the House of Blues where they see Lauren and Chris Lane. And so they go to actually Chris Lane's concert. I got some big plans. And Chris Lane actually lets Natasha and Ryan come out to the concert and they sing in their own little microphone. I can imagine being at the concert like, who are these people? I don't remember paying for them on my ticket. But anyway, they were really cute, and Natasha can really sing, and Ryan's just a great supporter, so yeah. So we are right before the performances. Everyone's doing dress rehearsals and whatnot and still trying to get those last finishes on. And we have Rudy and Matt, and they're singing, and Rudy's like, I'm just so stressed because everyone else is really good. And for me, I'm like, no, have you heard yourself, Rudy? Like, don't compare yourself to others. I think this is just a lesson that we can glean from all things. Do not compare yourself to others, because when you compare yourself to others, you inevitably feel bad about yourself, right? So the only person you should be comparing yourself to is yourself, so trying to see if you're becoming a better person and furthering yourself. Flashing to Julia and Sheridan. Julia is finally actually singing with Sheridan. My only thing is, I think they need some harmonies, because right then and there, they were just singing in unison, and I was like, no, this is a vocal competition. We need some harmonies, sis. Sing something. Okay, we're finally at the performances. Chris Harrison comes out like, hey y'all, and I'm like, hey. The judges are JoJo and Jordan from Bachelor World, Jason Mraz and Kesha. And the first people to sing are Rudy and Matt, and they sing Falling You by Shawn Mendes. They sound amazing together. And when they finished, Matt was like, yeah, Rudy is great, man. She makes me sound better. I was like, that's so great. And the judges liked it. So next we have Bree and Chris. They sing Beyond by Leon Bridges. It was cute. Jason pointed out that Bree was struggling between focusing with Chris and the audience, so he mentioned that, and I was like, ooh. But then again, we also saw before that that's something that Bree was concerned with, because she didn't really know how she should show that she's developing a relationship with Chris and still give a good performance. So I didn't think that was too telling of their relationship being on the rocks or whatever. Next couple is Becca and Danny. They sing Hey Ho by the Lumineers. They come out, do a quick kiss. Now, okay, I do want to say that I do like how they took a liberty to change this song up. Like, they did a bunch of different things that I don't remember being in the old song, so I really liked that. Now, the only thing is, after the song happened, Danny went in for another kiss and Becca didn't really want to kiss him. And so Rudy is like, they look like friends. And then JoJo saw it too. JoJo said that the feelings might not be reciprocated. And at that point, all the other judges basically said the same thing. I was like, wow, they are ripping into them. So now we have Brandon and Savannah. I want you, want me by Cheap Trick. And Julia's doing all that. And I'm like, girl, you're just bitter, okay? Here's my thing, right? Don't talk down on somebody. Just come correct. Just come better. And that's all you have to say. The fact that you feel the need to just keep going on and on and on and on, it's like, oh, you're obviously so bitter. Sweetie, stop it. Stop being bitter. Now, here's my thing, right? So then, during this performance, JoJo leans over to Jordan. She's like, do you think Savannah likes Brandon? And I was like, oh, what a rip, bruh. What a rip. This is why I watch this show. What a rip. And so during all this, after the judges kind of echo something that says the relationship may not be what they're showing, and Julia's like, see, this is what I'm... Sit down. Next. It's Julia and Sheridan. What a nice person. and they sing "As Long As You Love Me" by the Backstreet Boys. And I was like, if you really cared about Sheridan, you would focus on your relationship and not on others. Okay. So basically, they sing. JoJo and Jordan are getting lit in the back, bro. Dancing. You know, they're doing some stuff, some moves. Let me find my chair. And I was like, okay, this is obviously your jam. So they do that, and the judges are like, Sheridan just couldn't keep his eyes off of you. Like, yeah, like, we can feel it. We can feel it. And I was like, you can just see Sheridan's feelings. Why? Because Julia doesn't care about Sheridan. That's what that is. Next is Natasha and Ryan. I want you to stay by Rihanna. And first, Ryan's playing the piano by himself. I was like, where's Natasha? And then she comes out singing. And I was like, ooh, yes. It was good. It was a good performance. They also had a really good connection. The judges also loved it. But one thing I think they should notice is I think it was Jason. Jason was like, bruh, let's be honest, bruh. Natasha, she might just blow up and leave you behind because she's just such a star. And Ryan's like, I can't even lie, I know. And the last performance is Jamie and Trevor. I Could Use a Love Song by Maureen Morris. And the judges seem to like this relationship. I have pointed out all the issues. Another thing was Jamie was just so stressed. I was like, girl, what are you doing? Next episode, you're supposed to be performing in front of even more people. So you've got to get that together. You've got to get that together and just trust. Yeah. So we're at the rose ceremony now. And at this point, because they're couples and Chris has who they're going to announce, I'm like, oh, is Chris Harrison going to hand out the roses? I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And he starts saying the first couple. But then they hand each other the roses. And I was like, oh, okay. So the first couple is Jamie and Trevor, whatever. But the next couple is Natasha and Ryan, and I actually predicted them as second. I was watching this with somebody, and I was like, I bet Natasha and Ryan are second. And next thing what happened? Chris Harrison said Natasha and Ryan, and I was like, Raven Baxter who? I mean, okay. Third was Rudy and Matt. Fourth was Bree and Chris. And Julia once again is talking about other people, and I'm like, focus on yourself, Julia. Fifth is Julia and Sheridan, and now we have either Savannah and Brandon or Danny and Becca. And this makes sense because the judges ripped into those performances the most. But in the end, Savannah and Brandon are picked to sixth, which means Danny and Becca have to leave. And I didn't want them to leave, even if they weren't like developing a relationship, just because Brandon and Savannah and Julian and Sheridan, that whole drama was just really annoying me. So then we flash forward to see a preview of the next episode. And at one point, Julia and Brandon are still trying to fill things out. And Julia tells Sheridan this, and then Sheridan gets up, and Julia's like, Sheridan, where are you going? And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do at this point? I mean, I don't know. So yeah, can't wait to watch the next episode. I'm gonna watch it right now. So yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Did you think Danny and Becca should have gone home? Or do you think it should have been Brandon and Savannah? Or somebody else? Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Make sure to click that bell notification so you don't miss out on when I post. And now there's only one thing left to say. Bye-bye.